Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is time once again for another episode of Midnight's Edge After Dark. We are coming to you from various locations. I'm coming to you from Shabby Road Studios. Tom Connors joining us from Radioactive Cheese Studios. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing fantastic, Rob. Thank you very much.
And from the surface of the moon, the infamous blue area of the moon, we are joined by BEyondDaBliz. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, fellas. Have a pretty short episode today. We're going to make up for that with lots of swearing and ranting, hopefully.
Plus, Plus, we're going to take some viewer questions at the end of the show, so just make sure you direct them at us down there in the chat, and we'll try and get to as many as we can at the end of the show. So let's kick it off right away with the box office. What do you say, guys?
Box office.
We got to make sure we talk about.
Oh yes, that's right. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Thank you, Beyond. This week we had a very huge loss in the film community. Mr. Tobe Hooper, or Tobe Hooper, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Some pronounce it one way, some pronounce it another. Of course, we lost him earlier than we probably should. The circumstances aren't completely known at this time. There was a lot of stories in the last few months about a lot of stuff in his personal life we're not going to dive into here. But needless to say, he was a huge member of the film community. He's most well known for directing Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, the original films, and also well known for Poltergeist. Obviously more of a horror film director, so I know Rob's not a big, huge horror fan, so I'm sure he doesn't have too much to say about this. But me as a horror fan, I am at a loss for words because we've lost a lot of horror icons in the last few years, and this is something that just really kind of hit some of us in the horror fan community pretty hard because Tobe Hooper, as I said, is somebody who's a very huge icon within the industry, and to lose him, even though he was 74, and yeah, that's not young, but that's still too early. And like I said, the circumstances are still not known, so unfortunately, until we get more on that, we can't really speak on that. But anyway, did you guys have any thoughts on that, or should we just move on to the box office?
Well, I just wanted to say that, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was Tobe Hooper's really big, was his signature film, really. I'm not a huge horror fan, but I do recognize the contribution he's made to the medium. And it's always sad when we lose an icon such as him.
Well, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre pretty much ushered in the modern age of slasher films, basically. That's one thing that needs to be said right off the bat, as far as it was a huge independent film shot on 16 millimeter, and we all know what it is, whether you've seen it or not. Leatherface is so iconic that he transcends the films, and so a lot of people have seen the remakes, but if you've seen the remake, that's cool, but do yourself a favor and see the original film. It is terrifying, it is very well done, and even though it's 40 plus years old, it's still one of the best horror films you're ever going to find. So anyway, sorry, Beyond, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Fine. No, keep going. I love the passion you have for this gentleman. Now, one of the things I was going to mention too, because I'm really starting to get into horror a lot more as I'm getting older, and I know that the classics are usually what a lot of people tell me to go back to, like you said, Tom, where there was a time where and there's this thing in the creative medium in any facet where limitations breed the creativity and the innovation, like we saw with Jaws, or like you said with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the limitations breeds the real great true creativity. And I think that shows. And one of the things I really love about old school movies is the fact that they're low budget, but that almost gives it that grit to them. You saw Danny Boyle, another horror, he started and he did horror. He did 28 Days Later, one of my favorite horror movies, and I love the way the film was shot with such a low budget camera, but it had that feel and look to it, and it did kind of make me think about Mr. I always figured out how to pronounce his name. It's Hooper, right?
Hooper, yeah, Tobe Hooper.
Yeah, I just call him Hooper. Yeah, so with Hooper, like I said before, I love the fact that he was able to usher in the new age and all that. And I know there's other people that passed away too, like Wes Craven's hit me pretty hard last year when he passed. I thought that was kind of surprising, and of course with him kind of out of the blue, and about a day ago, I believe, at the time of recording this, he passed away, which is kind of weird. And again, we don't have a reason for it, so it's sad. But like I said, it's not how long you live, it's what the amount of impact you made. So seeing as how we're still talking about him and that he was able to do his part, I say he lived a full life, and in the sense that he was able to do what he had to do and influence the world like he so sought out to do. So, in that note,
Well,
we
and it's
definitely respect that and remember him for that as a whole.
I was gonna say it's actually ironic because we've been talking to Andre about doing retro mini docs on Midnight's Edge, where we would go back and look at movies in the past that had very troubled productions, and you know, Poltergeist was one of the first ones I brought up to him because there's so much behind the scenes on whether or not Tobe Hooper actually directed it or whether it was Steven Spielberg, and we've gotten a lot of new information in the last few years about it, and that was one of the documentaries I brought up to him about doing. So I'm sure we will possibly do that in the future, but just like you said, though, he's somebody who's been ingrained in horror film, especially in the last 45 years, a huge part of it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the original slasher film. He will be missed, and unfortunately, like I said, with the circumstances, hopefully we find out soon what happened, and then we could talk about it a little more. Right now, I just don't want to get into it with all the bullshit, and it's just, yeah. Anyway, moving on to the box office. Let's get to the box office, guys. What do you say?
Yeah, box office. Let's get on to the box office.
The box office didn't look much different this weekend than it did last weekend, actually, except for a few notes, and we'll get to those. I'm just going to do the rundown real quick. Hitman's Bodyguard came out on top with 10 million, only 10 million. Annabelle Creation had 7. Leap debuted with 4 million, almost 5. Wind River came back up with a little bit more. I think it opened up on a few more screens. That's a smaller film. That did 4.6. Logan Lucky did 4.2. Dunkirk did 3.9. Spider-Man Homecoming did another 2.8. Birth of the Dragon debuted at only 2.7 million. That's the Bruce Lee film that just come out here this last weekend. I think that was the only other major release besides Leap. And then the Emoji Movie topped off the top 10. And the reason why I skipped number 9 is because Mayweather versus McGregor, the fight, brought in $2.6 million at the box office. Rob, you're a big sports guy. Tell us a little bit about this and what this could possibly mean for the future of sports in cinema.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the old days, in the 70s and a large part of the 80s, where you had, pardon me, it was, for those who are too young to remember, before the advent of home pay-per-view, you used to have to go to a theater or an arena to watch a fight like this, and you would pay your money, pay your ticket, you would get a seat, and they would put the fight up on a screen. And a lot of places actually were doing that again. And so for me, this really isn't that unusual. They were, from what I read, they were actually having some problems with the pay-per-view before the fight, and they had to push the start of it back a few minutes. So they were waiting for more places, more for the pay-per-view feed to work itself out. But I'm thinking that we might see a resurgence of more fights like this being broadcast in a theater setting, just for the fact that you kind of want to be around other people when you watch something like this, and for a home, in a home setting. Yeah, okay. Honestly, I've been burned watching these fights far too often. To pay, I don't know, what does a fight like this go for these days?
You think it's like 30 or so bucks, if not. I mean, if somebody in the chat knows and lets us know. But I mean, I know you're right. They have done like basketball games and other things, especially with like 3D. They'll do 3D features some places, and I could see this being really huge in like Alamo Draft houses and places where they serve beer and food. But the reason that this is significant is because this actually showed up on the top 10. Now, granted, This was a slow weekend, but this is still a pretty big deal considering this is one showing, one night only. $2.6 million is a lot of money for something like this. Yeah. So I think that this will be something, like you said, that they may look into more in the future, and we may see more of this.
Okay, Cthulhu Beard, he said this one was $100.
Wow.
The pay-per-view. And like I said, I've been burned on these fights before, even when I had the cheater box. Please don't come after me, FCC.
I think the statute of limit. Oh shit! No, Rob, you better run. No, No, so yeah, it is. It is. It's I think
Don King's knocking at my door right now.
someone's knocking at the door.
Okay, we don't want to pay another royalty, but but anyway, yeah. So the people in the chat, they're saying this one was 103.57, $100.
Wow.
UFC is $50 for standard definition, 60 for HD. Honestly, I think it's a little bit better business model to charge you $30 and you go to a theater or go to an arena rather than paying $100 at home. I mean, it's
well, I can't imagine what would they charge for. I think the tickets would be just like an average admission ticket, I would think. So that's a lot cheaper, ain't it?
That's what I would think too. I mean, you would think it would just be maybe $8.
I mean, if somebody out there knows, let us know. But yeah, that's
peculiar to me. I mean,
or like yes, or charge what you're going to charge for a movie, $12, $11.99, $12.99, $15 at the most, and open up like the Cinemark or Rave Cinemas or whatever to the fight. Have it in like 2 or 3 auditoriums. You know, I don't want to pay $100 for a fight. I'm sorry.
Too, Rob, gentlemen, that I was thinking too is I think that's probably contributed to why it made so much money, to 2.6 million from.
Well, that's what we were trying to figure out is how much it actually the box office, because that's just the box office for the theaters. So I mean, I don't know how much the tickets were, but we were assuming they were probably the standard ticket price. So, but yeah,
it's weird though because I think that contributed to it, doing so well.
So yeah, other than that, there was more box office news. Rob, did you want to tell us a little bit about that, or did you want me to?
Actually, yeah. We've actually had some interesting news come out of China. The Chinese box office is actually in a slump, as it's been described. There was a 6-week government ban on foreign movies, what they call foreign movies, but yeah, in China. That was so that everybody in China can go out and see Wolf Warrior 2, which is now the biggest grossing movie of the year in China. And
actually all time, I think now, yeah.
Of all time, yeah, it surpassed Avatar.
Really?
It owned
an Age of Ultron,
let
yeah.
me take a look.
And,
that is insane.
In China, yes. In China.
It only made like $2.3 million here. So a lot of people, I know Amethyst was asking about that one time. He says, "Do you think we're going to see a big hit from China?" And I said, "I don't think it's impossible, but I don't think we're going to see one yet."
It's a slim chance.
But anyway,
not now. Like Wolf Warrior, for those who want to know, it 5.393 billion yen comes out to approximately 495 million. So that's about almost $500 million. So to put it into context, that's a pretty solid blockbuster film, even by US standards.
Yeah, and it's also doing well in Australia. It's doing well in several other markets. But in China, they released 3 films this past weekend: Valerian, Baby Driver, and Cars 3, and they all opened to a lackluster box office.
Wow.
So
actually,
I believe
sorry to interrupt you, Rob, but I saw here that it opened up to 9.9 million. So that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
In comparison to our box office, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, folks, of course, this is sounding like a broken record, but we didn't mention this before. This is another lowest in the last however many years for the box office. I think 16 years again. Here we go. It's like every weekend is a new low. But anyway, continue with the China box office. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah. There's a lot of pundits are saying, "Oh, well, does this slow down the Chinese box office? How is this going to affect Western studios?" I'm like, I think we're starting to see the Chinese box office. I wouldn't say we're starting to see it slow down, but I think a lot of Western studios are going to be getting nervous now. If you don't mind, let me look up the Chinese box office. Sorry, I didn't have this.
Go right ahead.
But stretch, as they say in comedy, stretch. But it looks like it does look like Valerian is a hit somewhere, and it's in China. Oh boy. Okay, here it is. Yeah, Valerian opened to 9.9 million in China, and it took away the number 1 spot from Wolf Warrior 2.
Well, at least Luc Besson's got something to be happy about, I guess.
Yes. Oh, I like to thank the Chinese very much for going to see my movie. The Chinese, they are much smarter than the Americans. You know,
Say, the rest of you fucking suck.
Kind of starting to sound a little bit like Uwe Boll there, the way he just said that. You know? Oh, good old Uwe Boll.
You and Uwe Boll can all fuck yourselves. No.
He's like, you need to all suck, fucking suck. You didn't see my movie, you know, Uwe Boll. Why don't you see, what the hell was that movie name again? It was Rampage 3. That he tried to get and it didn't work. Oh, I'm so glad he's out of Hollywood. I think he's literally the worst director of all time in terms of Hollywood. Because his sheer smugness and arrogance and his inflated ego, acting like he's the next Steven Spielberg. Jesus. But anyway, moving on.
But anyway, like we said, Valerian opened to 9.9 million in China. And Baby Driver opened on 12,000 screens in China to 9.6 million, which actually not bad for. I mean, think about it. That's kind of a hard movie to wrap your brain around if you don't speak English.
Well, I think we were saying this the other day. When I was talking to you about this, it's like, how do you sell this movie to them? Because Fast and the Furious movies play well over there, but this movie is kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy meets Fast and the Furious meets a Pulp Fiction type movie or a Quentin Tarantino type movie. To where, how do you sell this to them?
I mean,
a lot of the culture does. I don't know how well it's going to translate. I think is what you and I were saying, Rob.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, and. Are they going to get, like I said, they're going to get a lot of the jokes. They're going to get a lot of the references. It's like I said, it's a difficult thing. And I don't want to say car culture is kind of, the car chase movie is kind of a very American kind of genre, but it kind of is. And I can see, like I said, I can see why they would be interested in something like this, because it kind of looks like the Fast and the Furious movies just from the marketing.
They should have called it Grand Theft Auto, the movie over there, and it probably would have done bank. But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, Cars, it looks like, was one of the bigger winners over there. It made 10.7 million in China over the weekend. And again, so another car-themed movie, really.
Disney does it again.
Disney does it again. And Cars is probably, it's colorful. It's like I said, it's kind of I don't want to call it an easy movie to wrap your head around, but
it's pretty simplistic and straightforward. I mean,
it's pretty.
Cars 3, the rating is actually better than Cars 2, because Cars 2 was pretty much slammed by critics and fans.
Well, not only that, Pixar is well known to tailor the movies to different audiences. Like, one of the things, if you go back and look at some of the earlier special features on like Toy Story, the Toy Story movies and stuff like that, they'll show you the scenes that they changed for other countries to, so these countries feel like these movies are made for them, even though they're just a little bit different from what our versions are, just in slight different variations here and there.
Yeah, if you look at, speaking of Disney and Pixar, they tailor movies for different markets. If you look at the trailers for Inside Out, just some of the daydream sequences are slightly different. For America, because the family's moving from Minnesota to San Francisco, they show when the dad is daydreaming around the dinner table, he's daydreaming about a hockey game. And in Europe, when they have the same trailer, he's daydreaming about a soccer game.
Right.
And actually in Civil War, if the list that Captain America makes, Steve Rogers makes at the beginning, when he says to the Falcon, I'll put it on my list. For each different territory, that list is slightly different.
Yeah, great examples. Because, like the one I was talking about, too, is like in one of the Toy Story films, Buzz Lightyear's standing in front of a TV, and they got the old signing off TV thing with the flag waving in the background. Whatever corresponding country you're in, it'll play that flag. It doesn't, in the U.S., it's the U.S. flag, in Canada, and so on and so forth.
Actually, what I found out, too, is that around the world, they just have a world spherical, like the actual globe of the Earth, to kind of give it a sense of globalistic, more of a globalist type of vibe, where everyone's included, all different races and nationalities. So that way they can get past the center. It doesn't feel like there's any sense of American propaganda on the other country. So that's a nice, smart way they were able to do that. You also notice even, I think you guys mentioned Monster University too already.
No, we haven't, but I'm sure there's stuff in there. I'm sure
in there too, where they changed some of the letters. I think there was a cake that one of the characters had. I think it was a Blizzard guy, and it was something where it spelled something, and they changed it to the different countries so that way, they can understand the reference, they can understand the joke behind it.
So those.
Do that, right?
Yeah, so the point being is those films generally do play much better abroad.
Yeah, just for purposes of clarity, for those younger viewers who, like younger listeners who may not know what we're talking about, there was a time when television used to end at the end of the day. It's not like it is now, where it's continuous 24 hours. WVIT in Hartford ends its broadcast day, transmitting on UHF channel of 30 megahertz and 27,000 kilocycles. You would. Yeah. So we will resume broadcasting at 6 a.m. Have a pleasant night.
Analog TV.
Oh yeah, those are days you can actually see. So anyway, you can actually, like I said, if you don't believe me, just look up end of broadcast on YouTube, and you can very easily find it.
So I think we need to wrap up this though. So what do we think though? The issue is here is I think it's just the same problem we're having here. Is that these movies just aren't really bringing out the people. The two big movies of the year so far being Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, of course. So, or at least the summer, I mean.
Yeah.
Bad movie fatigue.
It
like
is.
I said,
it's normal. It's like with anything. If it's bad, people aren't going to go see it.
They didn't even go see Transformers, and I know Beyond loves that.
No, of course I do. It's one of the greatest fucking modern movies of all time.
Well, I think that goes to show that what we've said several times over is that these foreign audiences aren't as dumb as Hollywood wants to think they are.
Or at least that they'll regurgitate and they'll just kind of take the regurgitated nonsense of visual noise and CGI every time.
Like Rob likes to say, man drive car fast does translate easy, just like, man, a car turns into robot probably translate real easy, but they get sick and tired of the same old thing too. It's not, that part is universal. We all hate shitty movies.
Right. Because
I was
actually to catch up and realize that Transformers was garbage, but I'm glad they finally did it now. So,
I was actually talking to somebody, the guy who runs the pub trivia contest every Tuesday I go to. He's from the UK, and he was saying about how when he was a kid, movies were a big deal. And I said, "What do you think about them trying to tailor movies to more foreign audience?" He goes, "I'm really not crazy about it." He goes, the question is always that, we don't want something to seem too American. But he said that was actually kind of part of the appeal. You get to see a big American movie. And if I want to see a movie made about the UK, I'd watch a movie made in the UK, like Monty Python. If I want to see a German movie, I'd see a German movie. If I want to see an Italian movie, I'd see an Italian movie. So they're kind of delineating the differences. Like I said, people want to go to movies to see something different, not necessarily see something that's kind of homogenous. At least that's what I get from it.
Right. They're just they don't want to be shoveled shit. That's what we keep saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty simple,
yeah. And by oversimplifying things, that's what you're doing. You're just you're spoon feeding it to the audience, and the audience is going to resent it eventually.
Guys, you ready for this?
Yeah,
nope.
I think so.
No, but it's never stopped me before.
Right?
You guys ready for this?
Oh, let's get ready for this.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Fantastic for babies. Can't do any more than that. We'll get copyright strike.
What are we ready for? Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So, guys, there's going to be a Fantastic Four Babies movie, apparently, with their effing children, and that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, that's what we wanted. We wanted like the baby geniuses and just kind of rebooting Fantastic Four over and over again instead of just giving it back to Marvel. But Fox doesn't want to do that. No, let's give everybody
some context here first. This weekend, a few more details have emerged about the Fantastic Four Is it a reboot now, or is it a reboot? I don't know.
This is going to be number 5.
Right? Number 5. Anyway, might need a little bit of explaining here because according to Bleeding Cool News, acclaimed comic book author Mark Miller was in the middle of writing a children's book called Kindergarten Heroes that would follow the exploits of a handful of superpowered youth. Miller sold the movie option to 20th Century Fox. Even though the book itself never ended up happening, now Fox is looking to use this as the basis for the rebooted Fantastic Four movie. Fox now merged together the Kindergarten Heroes script with a pre-existing concept for the Fantastic Four to create a movie about the super children of Reed Richards and Sue Storm.
So it's really a power pack movie.
Keep going. Go ahead. I'll go last.
Well, here's one thing. Okay, it's not anything new for... okay, a good example, Die Hard. Most people don't realize that like 90% of the Die Hard movies were actually a book or another script that were refurbished and turned into a Die Hard script. Okay, I think a similar thing happened to one of the Lethal Weapon films. Regardless, this is nothing new. They do this in Hollywood all the time. But why would you turn around and take something that was obviously original and probably could be a very good animated film for kids and turn it into the Fantastic Four, which already has its own lore to dig 40, 50, 60 years worth of?
Because it's easy and they think kids are stupid. That's why.
They think the audiences, us, are stupid. That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we need a Fantastic Four movie. What have we got? Nothing. What about this Mark Millar thing? All right, do it.
Here's what we got. You got everybody saying, oh, everything in the first Fantastic Four was too bright, too kiddish. And then, you know, the Dark Knight happened and the DC movies were happening and comic book movies were getting more serious. So what happened? The Fantastic Four turned into this very dark mess. Okay, so now they're like, oh, everybody didn't like the last one. Well, that was dark and dreary and a mess. Well, let's make this all bright and cheery because that's what everybody's getting. They think that Marvel movies are just bright and cheery. No, they're not. They just don't have a bunch of filters to make them look dark as fuck. That's about it. But anyway, guys.
Basically, the way to say it is that they don't make it look like a name that shall not be mentioned that works for a certain comic book studio owned by Warner Brothers. But nevertheless, did you want to mention anything, Rob, in this discussion before I go on a tirade of absolute disdain?
Well, the only thing I want to mention is that the childs of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, it's Power Pack, really. Franklin Richards and the Power Pack. If you don't, that was a comic back in the 80s that Marvel had. But I will now relinquish the floor. Beyond, the floor is yours.
Okay. Is it okay if I yell? Is that fine with the audience?
Well, I think you just make sure you back up just a little bit.
I'll just back up. I mean, it's like one of those things where I'm just like, Fox, what are you doing? It's like, we just want a good Fantastic Four movie. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's like you tried. It had that one crappy one in the '90s, and that was a bad one. You had 2 ones with that Tim Story dude, and they were terrible. And then you had one with Josh Trank. You can't even let him do his own vision, or maybe Josh Trank really was that insubordinate. I don't freaking know, but I'm just like, just send it back to Marvel, please. We're done here. You tried enough. Let it go. It's like basically Fantastic Four at this point. It's like this discombobulated form of matter, and it's like the Fly, where it's like the Gwendol Fly and Fly, where it's like trying to live, and it's just not worth it anymore. It's not even Fantastic Four anymore at this point. Give it up. Give it back to Marvel and let it be, so it can finally get a fantastic movie it really desperately deserves, so that way Fantastic Four can rebirth itself and resurrect from the damaged and destroyed brand that Fox did to it. Because let's be honest, the Fantastic Four brand is completely dead. No one gives a good gosh darn card crap about Fantastic Four. The only way they're going to is if Marvel makes the movie. If Fox does it, they're not going to care. It doesn't matter if kitties are in it. It's not going to make.
We've already got the best Fantastic Four movie we're ever going to get. It's called The Incredibles.
That's right. That's right. You're right. And it was made by Disney, who also owns Marvel. So, I mean, well, Disney Pixar, but yeah. So, I mean, like I said, this is something where I'm just looking at Fox. Like, you have Deadpool, you have Logan, you had Days of Future Past. Hopefully Deadpool 2 is great. I'm starting to get a little worried about it, that they may go off the rails with it, but hopefully it's still great. And X-Men, Apocalypse is kind of getting me a little worried, the way they kind of decline with that. But nevertheless, they're still on the hot streak right now, and they still are great in the public eye. Why ruin that with another, just something that's even more departure? Because even though it's not dark, it's still becoming further and further and further away from what Fantastic Four is. They're doing everything around it, but not actually getting to the core of what Fantastic Four is. It's first family, and they're about people coming together. And that's something that should be in the MCU, an actual true family. Not like a team like the Avengers, but an actual family. And you see them have family dynamics, living with each other and all that good stuff. And I think we're going to get, like I said, kind of a Baby Geniuses type of thing, where it's like, oh, they're zany little kids and they have powers, and oh, it's so cool, and yeah, it's like, no one wants that.
Well, not to bring the Incredibles into it even more, this concept sounds even more like the Incredibles.
Yeah, the Incredibles did it better because you had kids in there, but it worked.
Well, this is their kids. Yeah. This is their kids. So it's like the super family. It's the same thing already, okay? And you guys may have heard of this little channel called Midnight's Edge. They do these videos, obscure. I mean, and they did these couple videos where there was, I don't know, there was just a little bit of trouble on the last Fantastic Four movie. You guys might remember hearing about it, just a little bit about it. Where it just didn't work out well for Fox. So what the fuck are they thinking? They need to just stop. Okay,
you want
just stop.
You want to know why they won't stop? Won't Spock? Yeah, they want to know why they won't stop.
Logical.
It'd be logical. Yeah, they won't stop for one simple reason: Daredevil. Take a look what Daredevil languished under Fox. Marvel got it back, and they turned it into a huge deal.
They kicked
and it's
that show, yeah.
And it was the launching point for the Defenders, for Jessica Jones, for Luke Cage, for Iron Fist, and for the Punisher. Nobody at Fox wants to be the guy to say, "Hey, here you go. You can have the Fantastic Four back," and then have Marvel turn it around and have a huge success.
Well, what they need to. Oh, sorry.
No, well, nobody wants to be that guy, and you could rest assured the guy who says give it back to Marvel. If Marvel takes it and they make a movie and it grosses $800 million, that guy's going to be out of a job. So
well, you don't do it for
just
free.
Yeah.
You do work something out to where they can get some other kind of right, or even possibly connect like Deadpool in some way to the MCU, because that's very possible, especially considering he can break the fourth wall. And there's rumors that Kevin Feige and them were very friendly when it came to Deadpool. X-Men, though, is a completely different story. You've got a situation where at the time Fox acquired the rights to X-Men and the X-Men film came out, X-Men were basically, besides Spider-Man, Marvel's biggest moneymakers. And now they're in this situation where they killed the Fantastic Four within the Marvel comic universe. They're trying to kill the X-Men in the Marvel comic universe, according to a lot of the fans out there. So really, what do you do at this point? You got to create some kind of bridge between the two, and I'm sure, because there's a lot of animosity, and I think this, if I'm not mistaken, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, you probably even know this, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, Marvel still owns the merchandising rights to X-Men.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Fox has the movie rights. Marvel still has the X-Men and the Fantastic Four merchandising rights. And if any of you have ever seen in toy stores, like in Toys R Us or Walmart or whatever, those figures, the Legends series figures, and actually I have one of those of the Sentry. There are no X-Men or Fantastic Four figures in that series.
Right, and basically,
yeah, go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just gonna say, they basically, if you're looking for anything that's not Wolverine related or Deadpool related, you're not gonna find it. Those are the only two things, as far as I know, that Marvel will still do merchandise for, because they almost have to.
Right.
And there's such a demand for it.
And there's also a thing too, guys, where it's so profitable and it's mutually beneficial with Deadpool and Wolverine. Whereas,
But the reason this is relevant, though, as I bring this up, is because look how much merchandise there was related to Deadpool. So you know there was some kind of synergy there between Marvel and Fox.
oh yeah, there wasn't any animosity as far as I can tell. But nevertheless, with Fantastic Four and the rest of the X-Men Rogues Gallery, I think what we're seeing here is that they want to make sure that, especially with the Fantastic Four, I feel they don't want it to be in the public consciousness at all. Very minimal, especially with the children. So that way, it's less of a chance of it being successful, and that way, that's their passive-aggressive strategy by kind of being more sort of civil disobedience of like, okay, we're going to withdraw from this. We're not going to give you any free advertising through our brand. So that way, if it sucks, it ain't on us. And that way, just give it back to us so we can do it well. But of course, Fox knows that, so they're in a very awkward position that they're just getting so desperate. I mean, this type of movie is akin to the rumored Sony Aunt May movie at this point. I mean, I'm like, what are they, like, seriously, what are they thinking by doing this? This is insulting.
Rob,
hurts. This really hurts me right now. But yeah, go ahead.
Rob, you're deep into this stuff because of all the videos and stuff, so you probably remember better than me. Do you think, or at least you can come up with a better opinion on this, do you think a lot of this animosity has to do with Avi Arad? And do you think maybe once he's out of the picture, X-Men might have a better future when it comes to a relationship with Marvel and Fox? Or do you think it's so far gone between them people at this point that they will not work together? And because, you know, there's the whole thing with they wanted to make a deal over Colossus and a few other things, and they wouldn't do it, and the Silver Surfer, and they wouldn't do it. So yeah, give us your take on this whole thing.
As far as I know, Avi Arad is really he's just like executive producer in name only at this point on the Spider-Man movies. Well, on the recent Spider-Man movies, I know that's Sony, but
he doesn't have any still. Does he have any connection with X-Men still, or no?
I don't know what his connections are to X-Men. I would have to look into it. Like I said, anything to me would be in name only, but at the same time, there is this resentment that Avi Arad has towards Kevin Feige.
And then there's Kurtzman too. I forgot to mention him.
And Alex Kurtzman, yeah, Alex Kurtzman's an idiot. Okay, I know people dump on Alex Kurtzman, but he had some success, and he's just kind of riding that past success. Like I said, Avi Arad is just, like I said, he does have that resentment towards Kevin Feige. Yeah, this guy was getting my coffee. Now
not Kurtzman. I mean, I'm sorry, I meant Simon Kinberg. That's what I was talking about. Yeah. That's what I was. Yeah. Simon Kinberg.
That's
what I meant to bring up, not Kurtzman. My bad.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Well, Simon Kinberg, I don't think Simon Kinberg is as talented as everyone wants to believe he is. Yes, okay. The Kingsman movie was people like that, and I gotta watch that eventually. That was one I always meant to get.
I have the Blu-ray and I still haven't watched it.
Watch Kingsman, guys. I've seen the movie several times. It's phenomenal. It's British,
it's coming.
James Bond-esque homage vibe to it. It's incredible. See Kingsman.
I'm definitely going to see it before the sequel. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And even people in the comment section, if you haven't seen Kingsman, go give it a watch. You won't be disappointed. Great film, and I'm going to see the second one when it comes out because I absolutely love it. Vaughn did a fantastic job.
Well, anyway, back to the Fantastic Four. Now, a large part of it was actually due to Tom Rothman and his tenure at Fox.
Yeah.
But Jim Giannopoulos was head of Fox. Actually, the relationship between them and Marvel was sort of starting to be rebuilt. I don't know what the status is with the new guy. They have Giannopoulos. I think Giannopoulos is at Paramount or something, isn't he?
Not sure on that.
Well, Giannopoulos, actually, he had left Fox. And honestly, at this point, there is nothing that Fox can do with the Fantastic Four franchise, with the property as a whole. I mean, yeah, they're going to try this kid. I think they're just putting this out there. I really don't think they have any intention of making this movie.
Well, if this Kindergarten Heroes movie or the story is any good, don't you think it'd be better to make its own movie?
Yeah,
why try and do something? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
To me, that seems to be better for like a Pixar CGI animated movie rather than a Fantastic Four.
I mean,
Exactly.
But if they really wanted to do it, I think they should just do an animated film. I think maybe even with Sony. Oh God, Sony. They're still going ahead with the Miles Morales animated film, Which again, at least it's animated, so people know the medium's different, so they can experiment and explore and take risks, whatever. And if it's crap, they can just write it off as an animated film. It's not tied, so they're fine. I don't know about the Miles Morales film, but I think Fox does have a better chance because having it be animated and go that Disney Pixar route and just do that instead. At least then you can maybe get something good out of it, and then further down the line, then you can make another live action one and do it right. Or you can just save yourself the trouble and the risk and just give it back to Marvel so they can make a great Fantastic Four movie.
And Fantastic Four has always had more success on television in the past, especially obviously just animated television, but still the 60s cartoon and the 90s cartoon are very well, the fans seem to like them a lot from what I can tell. And all these movies, as far as the movies go, the only one that was even remotely close to the actual comics in any way was the original 1994 Corman version, which everybody pretty much legitimately says sucks. Yeah. And it's not, it's but it's still sad because that's like the closest one you're going to get to the actual comics at this point.
One with poor budget and horrible, effects and everything is the most true to form comic book adaptation of the Fantastic Four. You know something's wrong. You know something's very wrong when that's the best thing you can basically display as or promote as the best definitive version of Fantastic Four, which is sad because I think it deserves a good telling. Like, even I remember the director of Ant-Man, the second director, not Edgar Wright, but Peyton Reed.
Peyton
wanted
Reed,
to make a 60s style Fantastic Four. How amazing would that have been? I mean,
that's how it would work best, yeah.
You could have even made it kind of like this sort of Kirby-ish, old school throwback. You know what? I had this thing where, imagine if the Fantastic Four was kind of a period piece film where like it took place in like the sort of like this 60s, 70 era where it's simpler time, and just have it be this like old school story but still have this nice modern feel to it. I would have went for that easily. And then maybe then you can have the new generation that coincides with the current timeline be their sons or daughter or whatever, and you can do that. Or I'm just spitting out ideas, but I would go for that more than just the stupid baby garbage.
And Rob will probably. Oh, sorry, Rob. I was just going to say, you'll remember as good as I do that before X-Men became huge, Doctor Doom was basically Marvel's biggest supervillain.
Oh yeah, Doctor Doom was the big bad of the Marvel universe. I mean, when Doctor Doom showed up, you didn't want any part of that. At this point, I gotta think the Fantastic Four IP is damaged beyond repair. That no matter what, and especially in the hands of Fox, there's really not going to be anything worthwhile coming out of it. But they do not want to be the studio that gives it up and has Marvel turn it into a hit. And at this point, if that is what you're just gonna hold it on to it out of spite and just not really do anything worthwhile with it? Like, why even bother? It's going to cost you money to make a movie. It's going to cost you more money at some point than it's going to be bringing in. There's going to be zero return on this. And at some point, we don't know what has happened behind the scenes, so it could very well have happened already that somebody at Fox might have gone to Kevin Feige and said, hey, we got this thing here that we can't seem to do anything with it. Do you think you could take a look at it? It's a no-brainer at this point.
Well, you think maybe if not, at least they try and work something out like the Spider-Man deal to work with Marvel and say, look, do something with this for us.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, that's a bridge at least there to where it opens the door for other things to happen. Because we know X-Men's kind of at that point where how many more of these are we really going to get in this continuum? Because, I mean, they've already semi-rebooted it. So how long before they kind of shut it down and they reboot the entire X-Men universe anyway?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, sorry.
No, that's good. That's fine. Like I said, I kind of lost interest in X-Men movies. I really have. Yeah, and like I said, and my interest in Fantastic Four is negligible unless it was part of the larger Marvel universe.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people in the chat that are saying the Fantastic Four should be set in the 60s, and then they get time shifted to present day. Which actually, that's an idea that's been traveling around the internet.
That works better, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to say time travel because I know that's been used so many times in a lot of films. It's like an easy trope way to kind of cross timelines. But nevertheless, I think that could work. Like maybe something happens where they try time travel and they, you don't want to do the same thing where they get frozen or something like that, like Captain America.
Right.
But you know. Something where I guess.
But Logan, well, here's the thing, though. If they go through the dimensional thing, when they come out the other side, they could be, 40 years in the future, 50 years in the future. There's that aspect. You could do it a lot of different ways, and it works. But like I was just going to say, as far as the X-Men goes, Logan was the logical ending, really, other than carrying it on through Deadpool. But they're going to do this Dark Phoenix movie at least, so I don't know.
Dark Phoenix
movie that means Logan could show up in that.
Well, should, but are they going to?
He probably will. Won't.
Yeah. Are they going to recast the part, or are they going to?
I don't think it's so at this point. He's too recognizable. People would notice the difference immediately.
Well, that's kind of the whole reason why I'm saying you're getting to this point where Hugh Jackman says he's done unless he does one more cameo. Which I don't think he will, because I think he kept turning down Ryan Reynolds for a cameo in Deadpool 2, as far as we know.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I don't see how much longer they can keep the X-Men going, because aren't they? They're experiencing diminishing returns, not even on that. So
we're right. Like RVL 480 Van said right in the thing, and this is true because I've seen his quote. He says Hugh Jackman won't even continue playing Wolverine unless they're in the MCU. So that was kind of his way of saying it ain't going to happen again unless, basically Disney writes him a check.
Yeah. So I think we've pretty much said all we can about that. I mean.
Yeah, does that mean it's time for the roundup?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Coming up on.
Ladies and gentlemen,
okay. It's time for the roundup, ladies and gentlemen. Am I clear?
You're clear to go. Yeah.
Clear to go. Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. We all know him. We all love him. Well, he wants to do something a little different now. James Gunn is aiming to bring Starsky and Hutch to television. Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn is looking to branch into television, and he wants to bring 70s cop series Starsky and Hutch to the small screen. He's teaming up with Neil Moretz. You might recognize that name. And Sony Pictures Television, and he'll begin shopping the series to networks this fall. I don't know what you guys were fans of Starsky and Hutch?
I was when I was younger. I wasn't a big fan of the reboot with Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller, but I guess this could work. I don't know. I'm just so sick of the reboot remake thing, but I have faith in James Gunn. So, I mean, it depends on how much involvement I guess he has.
Yeah, I used to watch Starsky and Hutch a long time ago when I was a kid. Yeah, it was a fun series. Very kind of stylized series. It was,
It was in that age where you had a lot of car shows. You had Dukes of Hazzard, Knight Rider, Starsky and Hutch. The A-Team had their van. Yeah, it was like
a lot of cop shows too.
Yeah.
Okay, Beyond, you were you a fan of Starsky and Hutch at all?
I don't really care, to be honest.
That's
okay. All right, next story.
Oh God.
Next story. Bill Nye the Science Guy he is suing Disney. Say Bill Nye the Science Guy. Popular television personality Bill Nye the Science Guy is suing the Walt Disney Company. And he is suing for back royalties in the amount of $9 million. Nye claims the company owed him 16.5% royalties on the series, and Disney did not pay him due to a bookkeeping error. The Walt Disney Company is demanding to be repaid now, however. Nye is suing for back royalties owed to him during the show's run. So Bill Nye, the legal guy now.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with him. I'm sure his numbers, if you're the ones with the clerical error, I'm sure Bill Nye's numbers are a lot better than yours. I don't know. I was just saying.
Well, I mean, they have to, Disney has all the best lawyers, so who knows how this is going to go. I mean, they can go either way.
Well, and I guess this stretches back to like 2008. is where it began, and that's what this is all about. But yeah, it's just nuts and insane, and we'll see how it goes.
It's kind of weird how this is getting in the roundup, and it's like not really right, but you know, it's like
television movie.
That's true.
People like Bill Nye though. That's the
And
thing.
Disney.
I don't know. People
It's a
still like
slow
him back
news
then.
week, man. What the hell?
Yeah, I know. I'm not commenting on that. I'm just saying I'm just saying it seems like, you know, people seem to be turning on him now. I think people loved him when there were a lot of people during the like late 90s.
Well, he's getting a lot a little political.
Which
So.
is part of our
try-
channel, but you know.
Well, they trot Bill Nye out when it's time to talk about a science issue, and they have somebody yell at him, and then he tells them about his wrong. I'm like, it's trying to present both sides of the argument, and that's really all I'm gonna say about that. But he's sort of the go-to guy to have because he's recognizable.
It's not necessarily because, like, if you look at him, I think he only has an engineering degree, but he's just like a face where, oh, it's Bill Nye, so he must be smart, and they just he's more of a face. Like, he's marketable. Like, he's a mascot for science, not necessarily the most sciencey guy out there.
But anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Next story.
Bumblebee, the Transformers spin-off movie. Well, Bumblebee is going to be a VW Beetle in the spin-off. I know that's
actually doing something right.
yeah, that's something a lot of people actually used to complain about, that Bumblebee was a Chevy Camaro. But hey, you know what? Somebody waves $150 million in your face from GM.
I'll be honest, that was my biggest gripe about the first fucking movie. That was literally my biggest gripe. It's like, why couldn't they just, because that was so much a part of his character, I guess. I don't know. Because he, besides Optimus Prime, was always my favorite character. I just had to say that, so.
Yeah, well, anyway. Set photos show that Bumblebee is once again a classic VW Beetle in the latest Transformers spin-off. The film is reportedly going to be a prequel set in the 1980s, and we can see those two photos. And not bad. It's a VW Beetle.
It's right.
Volkswagen car of the people. Literally means the people's car.
Well, this is their
Yep.
chance now to kind of regain this franchise. Here's a good spot to kind of reboot whatever you're going to do. I mean, obviously it's a prequel. I don't know how connected it's going to be to the other films, though. So it'll be cool to see what they do with this. This is what I'm actually kind of excited for. So hopefully they do this right.
Yeah. So anyway, actor Ed Skrein has exited from the Hellboy reboot following.
You recognize him from Deadpool.
He was Ajax / Francis from Deadpool. Anyway, he feels very he feels he's doing the right thing, and he is recusing himself from the Hellboy reboot following a whitewashing controversy. Comicbook.com reports that Skrein's casting in the film was announced last week and has drawn quite a bit of controversy in the days since. The Deadpool alum was set to play Major Ben Daimo, a character of mixed Asian heritage, but Skrein has said that he is stepping out of the production because he feels it is the right thing to do. And being from a mixed race family himself, he can sympathize. So Ed Skrein out of Deadpool. Out of Hellboy. I almost broke a story.
Well.
I almost broke a story there.
Yeah, I think he's out of Deadpool anyway because he died at the end of the
Yes,
first
he
one.
He's
So.
a goner. He got shot
But he was a
in the
Deadpool, so
face.
there's that. But no, this is like a sinking ship. I think this whole Hellboy thing has just been a mess from the start, if you ask me. So I'm glad he walked away from it. We didn't touch on this controversy before because I didn't think it was something worth really dealing with. But now that he's walked away, it's like good for him. This whole thing just doesn't.
The
I'm
whole
not
thing reeks
interested.
of a thing where I won't say it's on the level of The Crow, because The Crow to me is a cursed movie. That movie literally, I think there is some kind of force. Maybe it's Brandon Lee's like angry consciousness that does not want the movie to get made or whatever, or remade, I should say. But I'm seeing the same thing here with Hellboy start to happen, where it seems like nothing is coming together. Everything seems.
What's
to
more
be-
torture than getting the one with Edward Furlong? I mean, come on.
Right. Oh, Jesus
Mhm.
Christ. Don't even start me on. Because I really love the original, so I
I
hold
do
it up
too.
high. So, I mean, it has this, like, this nice gothy aesthetic, and then I like how the Joker is, like, Freudian slip, the Crow reminds me a lot of the Joker, kind of what Heath Ledger's Joker is. I guess like the way he looks, he reminds me of the Crow. So I really like how he laid the groundwork for this sort of character that was kind of like the Joker / Batman in a lot of ways. I just love the original Crow and just what it was for the time.
Well, it's a very unique character, yeah,
Exactly.
and it captured the essence in the original film. Frankly, I just don't know if you could. I mean, even though that does differ in some ways from the comic, I just don't know if you could ever really redo that and capture that again the way they did.
It's just Brandon Lee Spirit doesn't want you to, and he's basically cursing the remake.
But we're getting off track here too, yeah. But no, that's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hellboy just stinks. So yeah, I don't like.
Does anybody really want another Hellboy movie?
We do, but we want it with Ron Perlman.
Right,
we don't want
exactly.
this shit. That's okay. To be more precise, it's not that I don't want Hellboy. I want a Hellboy 3. I don't want this shit. We have an established universe. We have somebody who loves playing the part, who is perfect for the part. Sure, you can't get Guillermo del Toro to get his shit together to help out. So what? So move on without him. Get him on as executive producer. Do something with Ron Perlman. Don't do this shit. That's what everybody wants. But anyway, moving on.
Let me say this though about this casting and him stepping away. I think this is a big problem in Hollywood. I know I had this one debate with this one gentleman on Midnight's Edge quite a while ago, and it was over the discussion of, I believe, Liz Allen being of black origin, being African American like I am, from, even though the character in the original comics is blonde, she's Caucasian, which I have no problem with race bending. That's perfectly fine with me, but it always bothers me, really gets under my skin, that any time it's race bent towards a Caucasian character, I mean, from a ethnic character of any other ethnic origin to Caucasian, it's a big controversy. Hollywood's racist. They hate minorities. Blah blah blah. But it's free for all if you want to have any character that's originally white turn any other race. That's perfectly fine. There's no controversy there. In fact, it gets praised. So I feel like there is this big double standard in Hollywood where I feel like if you can race bend any character from any race, it should be any race, as long as with exclusions of people like Black Panther or like certain characters like Wonder Woman.
Well, I've brought it up before quite a few times where I've said, and just for the record, Rob and I are the only white guys on the group tonight. Anyway, no, the point is it doesn't matter to me. I don't see where it should matter as long as you're not changing who the character is, in a sense of, as long as Superman always has the ability to fly, shoot X-ray vision, and kryptonite is his kryptonite. It doesn't matter what color his skin is. He's an alien. He's adopted. Same thing with Batman to a point. There's in a lot of ways you could argue that as long as he has the Batmobile and his parents get shot and he's got the bat suit and all that kind of stuff, he's still Batman. It doesn't matter what color of skin he is underneath. And Spider-Man's another perfect example because you can't see what color he is. So a lot of this shouldn't really matter as long as you're not changing inherently who the character is. Now, I know there was a lot of controversy with MJ with Spider-Man. But at the same,
I just thought it was shoehorned, Tom.
Right, there's differences to that, and that I can see where the argument is completely has nothing to do with race, but how the character was handled. I, on the other hand, see what they did there. They just role reversed Peter Parker and Mary Jane is what they did. Peter Parker was a little bit more popular. She was the more introvert, but yet at the same time, she was obsessed with Peter Parker, and we've gotten into this millions of times over. And we don't want to get any farther off track than we already have because we were supposed to get off in Denver, and now we're in Albuquerque.
That's exactly, Tom, what I told him when I auditioned for the role as Tupac Shakur. I'm telling you right there. So.
Well, that's just it. That's the real point. Is it's not like you're casting Martin Luther King or anything like that. This is a comic book character. This is an adaptation. This is another. It's fiction.
It's fiction.
Unless you're, like we've said, unless you're dealing with somebody who's called Black Panther, and that's inherently part of who the character is, then obviously you can't change that. But
hi, I'm a rapper. Let me lay down some Def Gems for you.
Oh, God.
we've already had a half American, half Japanese Superman with Dean Cain, so there really is no argument that it has to necessarily be white bread, black-haired, blue-eyed, 6 foot tall, Anglo-Saxon, white American guy playing Superman. There's nothing that says it has to be that way.
Okay. Well, anyway, speaking of a couple white guys, Jay and Silent Bob, the reboot, is in the works.
Nooch to the nooch.
Jay and Silent Bob return in a new movie about the duo attempting to stop a reboot of their characters, Bluntman and Chronic. Kevin Smith published on his Twitter feed a photo of himself and Jason Mewes outside Miramax Studios, saying the film would start shooting this fall. The film, called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, is expected to have a 2018 release date. I like Jay and Silent Bob. I like that.
I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, so this makes me very happy. Unfortunately, Mallrats is not going to happen anytime soon because Universal wasn't interested, and Clerks 3 isn't happening because an actor involved did not want to change his mind, didn't want to do it. So we're at least getting Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. That makes me happy, and maybe this will lead to other things. So hopefully it's a good
question
thing.
I have for you gentlemen. So I know the original Jay and Silent Bob is it has a good cult following. I know I'm part of that fandom too. The only thing is I question is, if it's a reboot, it's kind of like where it's still the same characters, just kind of resetting their own little universe, right?
Well, that's part of the joke. It's part of the joke. Is there in the first Jay and Silent Bob film, which, if I'm not mistaken, is still Kevin Smith's highest-grossing film to date, with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This would be basically a direct sequel to that, in which, if you remember, in that film, they hitchhiked their way to Hollywood to stop a Blunt Man and Chronic movie from happening because the characters are based on their likeness. So in this movie, they find out that Hollywood is doing a reboot, so they're off again, basically doing the same thing, and that's the whole joke.
Right. Yeah,
it's the whole joke is that it's the same story, but this time it's to stop a reboot, and yeah, so.
It's not necessarily a reboot, but that's the joke.
Okay, now I'm getting it. 'Cause I didn't really
The
get
story
into
is basically the same fucking story, though. Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of this probably inspiration came from a lot of fanboys bitching about Force Awakens being so much like New Hope and all that kind of shit. Probably.
Isn't it weird how, like, I know Star Wars is very much a part of that too. So it's weird how, in a way, it's like it's a reboot of. It's kind of a reboot remake of Strikes Back, but it's also meta. So it's like
Exactly.
a sequel reboot. Like, you can look at it different ways. It's kind of hilarious, actually. I'm really excited.
Well, and that's the thing is Strike Back was so meta in itself that this makes complete sense, and I'm looking forward to this, and I hope it's a huge hit for Kevin Smith because he needs it. I mean, yeah, he's made some movies for himself lately that a lot of people don't really care for, and that's understandable.
This
But
was something that is either you probably love it or you find it kind of amusing for being so interesting.
But if you're not familiar with the Jersey series, familiarize yourself with it. It's a great set of films. Zack and Miri's a really great film, and I don't blame you for skipping some of his other ones. But if anything, definitely see Red State. Otherwise, but yeah,
I did like Chasing Amy. I really did.
Yeah, I heard
That's
a
one of his
lot
best,
good things.
yeah.
I haven't got a chance to check it out, but I heard a lot of good things about it, so I definitely have to check it out. I have it on my DVR, so whenever I get a chance, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go ahead and watch that.
Okay. Okay, but actually, there's probably to wrap up this Jay and Silent Bob story. There's probably going to be a lot of jokes. Hey, didn't we do this before?
oh, I'm sure.
This seems awfully familiar. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. We all like the Marvel Netflix series, and actually, we just mentioned Daredevil earlier in the show. For those wondering, Daredevil season 3 will start shooting this fall. Hooray! Season 3 of Marvel Netflix's Daredevil is scheduled to begin shooting this fall. Star Charlie Cox, while speaking to the Hollywood Reporter, talked about the significance of Frank Miller's Born Again storyline. Shooting is scheduled to take place in New York City in late October. If you're unfamiliar with the Born Again storyline, it is awesome. So
I've been very happy with Daredevil. Now, I just started watching The Defenders, and, well, not to give you guys a preview of the roundtable coming up. So far, I'm not that impressed. So we'll see how that goes.
So, Beyond, what do you think? What do you think about this?
Well, you got Daredevil season 3. I mean, I've been watching the Netflix shows pretty considerably, like closely, like seeing how it's doing, and The Defender seems to be doing pretty well. I saw it got pretty good ratings. I know Iron Fist was the really big blowout. That's pretty much like, oh.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Iron Fist.
the roundup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. But anyway.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I was telling Rob, though, you have to see all the other shows, from what I can tell so far, getting into The Defenders to really get it. Unfortunately,
it's like an amalgamation of everything coming together, where I think if you just saw it on its own, it would feel very inside baseball, and then you could tell, because basically TV allows you to really give your character some breathing room and time to really grow, and more so than you can in about an hour 30-minute film or 2-hour film, depending on what type of film it is.
Right.
So
And we apologize out there. The roundup just looped around, so if you're hearing all that weird stuff in the background, we overtalked our limit. We screwed
Yeah.
up. No.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. I just kind of awkwardly kind of glanced over that. Hopefully no one notices anyway. Well, now they're going to notice if we're attentive to it anyway. But, that's great. Daredevil's having another season. It's weird because Daredevil just released in 2014, did it not? Wasn't that the year it came out?
I believe so.
2000 Yeah, I
So
think,
it's
you're
weird
right.
how time flies, and all of a sudden now we're on season 3. We have Defenders, we have Iron Fist, which everyone seems to hate, and of course Luke Cage. There's great stuff about that too.
I loved Luke Cage and I loved Jessica Jones. Iron Fist,
Jones
Yeah. All right, yeah.
Well,
so speaking of
Marvel Netflix's series, there is going to be another Marvel hero appearing in The Punisher. According to
please let it be Spider-Man. Please let it be Spider-Man.
According to a report from the MCU Exchange, Marvel Senior Vice President of Creator and Content Development, CB Cebulski, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, stated during a Marvel Cinematic Universe presentation at the Asia Pop Comic-Con in Manila, Philippines, that another Marvel hero may be showing up in The Punisher.
Yay!
The statement was followed by an audible gasp from the audience. Gasp! Cebulski revealed no more than that. So a lot of people. So a lot of people have been cranking up the speculation machine. So if
it's
you,
Howard the Duck.
it's Forbush Man.
There was some people speculating though, Rob. Who did they say it was? Moon Knight. Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. Moon Knight, yeah. Moon Knight. There's actually another character that is.
I was like, I don't know who that is. So I was like, what the fuck?
A few people actually here and there I've seen speculate that they were hoping a character called Night Watch would show up in the Spider-Man movie, but that hasn't happened. For those unfamiliar, Night Watch is more of a Spawn type of character, except his powers come from technology. So he's sort of I wouldn't call him a darker Iron Man, but that's
what's gonna piss me off is if it's lame and it's actually like Daredevil or something. They're just saying that, and it's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, but a lot of people do tend to think it's gonna be Moon Knight. And actually, I had heard something about Moon Knight showing up on Marvel Netflix maybe about a year and a half ago. So
there's some levity to, or at least not levity. I mean, some reality, that possibility.
So I think Moon Knight is one of those characters that would do well in a Netflix setting. So if you're out there, if you're unfamiliar with Moon Knight, get out there and actually check him out.
Yeah,
the
Rob yelled at me.
I did not yell at you. I gave you a stern talking to.
Okay, there's a difference. All right, is there anything more for the roundup there, Rob?
That's it. That completes the. I believe that completes the roundup.
So we got a few minutes here. We'll take a few quick questions after we got an email question. So go ahead and throw a few down there. And what's our email question for this week, Mr. Beyond?
All right, so let me see what we got here. First question comes from Eric Kramer. Any hope for the Metal Gear Solid movie if it were made under different circumstances? Well,
Rob, I'm going to let you take this one first because you're a bigger fan. I've played a few of the games. I'm not a huge fan. I know Beyond's a big gamer, so I'll let you guys take this one.
Here's the problem with video game adaptations and why they don't turn out very well. It's because the player has a significant role in driving the narrative forward, that it doesn't give you a whole lot of room to focus on a lot of different kind of story elements. I'm not saying that there can't be a good video game adaptation of a movie, adaptation of a video game rather. Just we haven't seen it yet. If there's going to be one, I think Metal Gear is probably the one that would be the breakthrough, because it is so cinematic and story driven in nature and has a lot of great characters.
Right, I could see like a modern day Rambo.
Yeah, modern day Rambo. I often said to people who are unfamiliar with it, Metal Gear Solid was an action movie crammed into a video game. It really does, because it has such a cinematic feel, and you can watch those cutscenes and follow the story you can not really miss any of the story. I mean, like I said, it's going to be difficult, and it's all going to come down to the director, and if the director actually takes the source material seriously, because that's always been a huge problem. You have directors come in and they say, "Oh no, we're not going to do it. I know better. Trust me, you're going to like what I got," and it's been terrible. So, yeah. So
I guess with the right casting, the right director, the right writer, yeah. What do you think, Beyond?
Just one thing. I've often said that Hugh Jackman should be the one to play Solid Snake. I mean, he pretty much.
That's a good choice.
Yeah,
it's an interesting choice. I do agree with you on that one, Rob. I would like to see him since he's not playing Logan anymore. But for me to answer the question, from my perspective, I reject the notion that video game movies are unadaptable, as a lot of people say they are. I guess it depends on the game. I mean, some game like Mario, a video game movie like Mario, yeah, that's hard because you have a simple premise, but where do you go with that? Because it's so open-ended, and then with that, you get the original Mario movie that came out in the 90s. That was
the
atrocious.
Difference with that one, though, is that the director didn't want to make a fucking Mario movie. That's why that movie turned out the way
I'm just saying, even if you wanted to approach it as a true to form, it's still like, how do you approach it? Because it's so open-ended, whereas something like Metal Gear Solid, it's not that hard to adapt into a live-action film. I know they're doing an Uncharted film. It's Sony, so I'm not looking forward to it at all. I know they have Lara Croft's Tomb Raider in the pipeline with Alicia Vikander, beautiful lady, great actress, but I don't think she can do it. I don't see anything really appealing. It seems like it's going to be a cut and dry, very soulless adaptation that's not going to have the remnants of it. I actually, to be honest, I kind of sort of like the original one that came out in 2001 with Angelina Jolie. That one felt more true to form than what I'm seeing with Alicia Vikander, so that should tell you something. And I don't know any of the other video game movies that are coming out as of late, but one of the recurring themes I'm seeing with this and anime adaptations is that especially the recent Death Note, if anyone saw that garbage anyway. So it's like they either try to cram too much in too little time, they completely transform the medium and just use the brand recognition to sell a movie that's really just a generic movie that you would rent on Redbox. They need to find the perfect balance of taking the risk, staying true to form, but also giving something a little new. Like, and also, again, to go back to the other point, to keep it grounded within the world so it's recognizable and marketable. That's the most important. It needs to be marketable so people can go and see it. Metal Gear Solid can be, but we have to wait and see and get some more ideas. If they get a good writer and director and a good studio behind it, like, for instance, Metal Gear Solid, Sony, I don't want you to touch it at all. I'm not even going to consider Sony in that conversation, but something like possibly maybe Warner Brothers. Paramount will be a little iffy on just because of Ghost in the Shell, but
Christian Bale was another name thrown out there for possible.
Like I said, maybe because I know he's a favorite of Warner Brothers, so I would see Warner Brothers. I could see them doing it. Even like I said,
I think Sony's got the rights though.
Oh, that's oh god.
Well,
I think Avi Arad, is he one of the producers on it?
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Well, one of the things is
never mind.
Well, one of the things Hideo Kojima actually specifically said he wanted Sony to take it, so have the rights. But actually, another game that has been in development hell for nearly a decade is Splinter Cell, and that I could see working as a real kind of a James Bond sort of geopolitical espionage thriller.
I love the Splinter Cell game.
I want Pac-Man the movie. God damn it!
Pac-Man the game. What would that even look like? I mean, the video game movie. What would that even look like?
I want Madden the movie. Oh wait, there was already a Madden football movie. It's called North Dallas 40.
Put some mustard on it.
Well, anyway, I hope that answers your question, Eric Kramer. Yeah, that's basically.
Well, yeah, let's turn to the.
Let's go for the next question here. It's kind of a longer one, but.
No, that's just from the same thing. Just.
This is the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
we got one here.
God,
Anything to say about Netflix's Death Note being abysmal, received by their director going full Josh Trank, Paul Feig on Twitter, enclosing himself in an echo chamber? Well, I have not seen Death Note yet, and I don't know too much about the whole situation going down. I know that a lot of people are not too happy with it. Do you guys have anything to say about it? Did you see it?
It's bad. I've seen like most of it. I've been seeing like clips and stuff like that. And what I'm seeing, my God, it's so bad. And here's the first thing. One of the things I will say in its defense, Ryuk being played by Willem Dafoe was incredible. He is so charismatic and he captures the creepy nature of a death god so well. Because he's basically like playing a Green Goblin, only more reserved. It's perfect, and his voice is so perfect for like a demon type character. But besides that, everything else is crap. I know L, he's the detective guy. He's played by the guy who played in Get Out. He seems to be serviceable, but from what I was hearing and seeing, that through the third act, he just becomes a generic guy, and he kind of departures away from the character. Where L in the original is very calm and kind of has this very unique demeanor to him, where he's almost like kind of very quirkish, but he's a cool character. And the movie, he just becomes this emotional person, and not emotional like crying, but just kind of like over the top in a sense. And then of course Light, they basically effed him up. They turned him from a really intelligent character. Like the idea of Death Note in its essence is, if a really intelligent guy got his hand on the Death Note and got a god complex, what would that mean for the world? And that's basically the premise. Whereas this guy's some brooding, kind of weird looking, scruffy looking teenager who gets bullied. I mean, that's not who Light is. And they got Nat Wolff, and by God, that's one of the worst castings I've seen in the movie. I mean, he looks so his casting seems so out of left field, and so it doesn't fit at all. It doesn't fit. And even the love interest, I'll end this here with Misa, where her character in there is more like this kind of bubbly, kind of cutesy girl, goth girl type. But in the movie, she's just some generic chick for him to crush on, and she has no personality other than being a love.
Did you have anything to say about that, Rob? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I have. I'm unfamiliar with Death Note. I wouldn't know where to begin, so I'll just leave it at that.
Did you got another question from the group Rob picked out, or?
Actually, Grady Childs, he asks, give me an explanation for why Simon Kinberg is given the director's keys to make Dark Phoenix, despite Four Stick failing and Apocalypse being a disappointing nothing movie. It could very well just be contractual. A lot of guys have it in their contract. If I direct this movie, I get first dibs on directing another one. It could be their guy. I'm really not sure how that worked out, and then how he was selected. But I do think there was some behind the scenes wrangling that we were not privy to.
I'll say this: I think that with Simon Kinberg, I think they just want to be safe and play it inside baseball. So they want to go with somebody that at least is familiar with the X-Men world, so they don't have to take a risk. Because if they go out and get a new guy and he tries to change the vision of it, they may get a little worried. And then they have another Josh Trank situation where he tried to make his own vision, and then basically Fox obviously didn't like it, even though they agreed upon it, which is a whole nother story in itself. You see the mini documentaries. There's a little channel called Midnight Edge, just some mini documentaries. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but they did some. Go check them out. Really nice people. But basically, when it comes to these movies, I think that they just want to be safe, and that's how I feel about it. I think that's pretty accurate. I think contractual obligation could be in there, but I just think they just want to play it safe and say, at least with Simon Kinberg, we have a guy that knows the world, so we don't have to worry about getting a new guy and having a Josh Trank 2.0 happen, because that would be a disaster for the studio. They don't want to repeat that.
Yeah, actually, there's a good question actually from Destiny Captain. With Paramount struggling and Transformers 5 underperforming, what do you think will happen with the Hasbro Cinematic Universe? I think it puts it in doubt.
Has there even been any movement on? Has there even been any movement on G.I. Joe 3?
No, there hasn't. Transformers: The Last Night was supposed to set up the Hasbro Cinematic Universe, and that's hard. That was pretty disappointing. That news goes back all the way to April from the Nerdist, that this was supposed to kick off a Hasbro Cinematic Universe. I would still like to see a ROM Space Knight movie. If you haven't seen my video about ROM Space Knight, check it out. Actually, ROM is a great character. It's a great instance where Marvel took a character with absolutely nothing going for it. It was just a robot by Parker Brothers, and they made it into an integral part of the Marvel universe. So, but I think, like I said, we were talking about it actually this weekend. Depends who Paramount is going to be bought by. I think that's going to be the ultimate decider in the Hasbro Cinematic Universe, because they've had big plans for Mask and a G.I. Joe movie and a Rom movie to go right along with the Hasbro movies. I think, like I said, I think it's all going to come down to what happens to Paramount in the long term. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything about them canceling it.
I think there's some rumblings. I think they're looking at the box office of Transformers The Last Night, which I'm like, finally another performance. Thank the movie gods. But nevertheless, when it comes to the cinematic universe, it's like everybody is trying to have the Marvel formula. I'm like, just make a good movie first, then build off of it. So the same thing happened with Universal with their Dark Universe. Trying to shoehorn that with The Mummy, and that completely failed. Now, it did make 400 million, I just checked on the periphery. It did make 400 million, so I guess you can consider it somewhat profitable. So they're most likely going to go ahead with a sequel, but the prospects of them being able to sustain a viable and financially successful cinematic universe is very, very slim. So I would look at Transformers and Paramount like, maybe you should see if Bumblebee does well. Bumblebee does well, then fine, go ahead with it, reboot it within the Transformers, Bumblebee, Pocket, spin-off universe, whatever. And I think it could work. Because you still have the brand recognition, and you can try to undo the stink and the bile that was Michael Bay on the franchise. So, the prospects to me are a little slim, though. They're a little low. Just because Paramount is almost in a similar position to Sony, where they're not in a good state right now. I mean, just look at their slates of movies. They just keep bombing and bombing. None of them really are doing that good at all.
Yeah, the only thing Paramount really has going for it is Mission Impossible, really. Wildstar Studios says it's a shame that Rom can't be referred to in Marvel Comics. They still use Dire Wraiths. That's actually an interesting kind of thing. Marvel owns the rights to Dire Wraiths and to Space Knights. They can have other Space Knights, and actually they have with Space Knight named Icon that was in the some promotional material they had, and that was originally supposed to be Rom in that promotional poster that they had, but they had to change it to Icon with a K. And actually Marvel has done some Space Knights limited series over the past few years. So,
right, let's move on to another question then.
Yeah, actually, I have one question I wanted to touch here real quick. Is this from the Massive Entertainment who writes, "What if Bumblebee ends up like TMNT Out of the Shadows, which is the second movie?" Yeah, that was horrible. Too little, too late. I agree with Master on this because basically TMNT 2, from what I've heard, was a little bit better, slightly better than the first one, but because of the release date and whatever and everything like that, it just completely tanked. And I think that comes down to, like he said, too little, too late. And I think the same thing may happen with Bumblebee. I think it's too little, too late. I think if they want to do a Bumblebee movie, they should have done it in 2014 or 15. I think that at that point, the fatigue wasn't as bad as it is now, so they would have had
the only way they could fucking make this anything close to how bad they fucked up TMNT is have Bozo the fucking Clown and George Bush in this or something like that. Because no, dude, they fucked up TMNT and TMNT 2 so badly. Oh my god, they had to cram April O'Neil in wherever they fucking could in the first movie, and then they basically. It's like if you remade Star Wars and took out Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader changed his character as well. Like you completely erased Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I know how much people hate the TMNT.
And then TMNT 2 is just one of those movies where the logic is so fucking dumb. Like basically, I think I pointed it out to Rob recently, or if it was either Rob or Matt, where I said they have a point where when they turn Bebop and Rocksteady into a warthog and a rhinoceros, the explanation for it is that everybody has an inner beast, and this is their inner beast.
That's a fucking stupid reason to do it.
Let's put it this way. In the original cartoon, at least, they had the robots go out and drag in some animals, and it was a warthog and a rhinoceros. It made fucking sense, and then they mixed the DNA between the two. This makes no fucking sense whatsoever. So yeah, that's just one little thing in this huge mess of a movie. So two did not help, or yeah.
Well,
I think I actually had a worse time watching 2 than I did the first one. to be
wow,
honest.
that's pretty. Because like I said, that's pretty bad because I heard people like.
I'm also a huge TMNT fan. Anybody who really knows me knows I'm a huge between like TMNT, Master of the Universe, and Superman are my top 3
Oh
things.
yeah, respect on that. Like I said, I mean, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I really love the TV series. The TV series, the CGI one.
Outside of Star Wars, of course, but yeah, that's just in its own world. But
I'm
yeah.
saying,
Anyway,
to back up your point here, even though I'm not the biggest fan, but I really love the TV series. What they did with the movies, from what I saw, was pretty irredeemable. I mean, it's like they basically made it. It kind of had this. I'm gonna peg this the Amazing Spider-Man 2 effect / Batman and Robin, where they just had to make everything all neon colored, zany, add a lot of dubstep to it, and just hopefully kids will go see it. I mean, if you saw the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and not the worst comic book film in the world, but it definitely is one of those where you can tell this is a corporate film that they just vomited it out. It just said, let's just throw this on the screen and hope to God it works. It didn't, because it got rebooted again, but they basically just said, hey, Sony, we'll just piss it out and just see what people think. So.
all right. Was there any more questions left? One more? We want to take one more?
Yeah, let's take one more question. Actually, Destiny Captain was just wondering where the Star Trek, where Captain Rob's blogs was this week. I'm sorry, there was just not enough Star Trek news breaking at the moment. We will revisit that when we have something good.
Right.
So,
I think this is just the calm before the storm, though, too.
Yeah.
Especially with Discovery. When is Discovery coming out? Let me check this.
Couple weeks.
It's for the 24th.
24th? Yeah.
We need to set up a roundtable for that, definitely, to discuss that. Cause
Oh, yeah, I think we were thinking about doing something live after it premiered. Yeah, something like that.
Like, what I'll do is there a way I can see it without having to have all access? Can I see it on my TV?
It's on CBS the first night.
The pilot episode is going to be on CBS.
Okay, so I can go watch it then and kind of just get an idea, because I think we're ready for a disaster.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just
actually,
my opinion. So
yeah. Okay, like I said, we've got. That's my opinion too. We've got time for one more question, guys. Looking at the chat, if anybody has a question for us, this is gonna take a couple seconds. First, I guess, who do you think? Oh,
there was one back up there.
Andrew O.
Yeah, who do you think the next Marvel bad guy after Thanos is going to be? Was the question.
Good question. Not sure. A lot of the villains are locked up, actually.
where can you go after Thanos? That's the big question. Unless you go with Galactus.
I don't know.
But...
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind, Galactus, but that's locked up with Fox.
tried.
Really? Oh, damn it.
I wouldn't mind seeing Namor in some capacity, because Namor's kind of a dick. So, but that would invite a lot of Aquaman comparisons, even though Namor does predate Aquaman. I don't know. That's actually a really good question. Unless they're trying
Doom. No.
Doctor Doom. No, I would love
he's
to
tied
see
up
Dr.
at
Doom.
Fox.
Yeah, he's tied up at Fox. A lot of their best villains are tied up at Fox.
Yeah, it sucks though, because like I said, Fox
That's where a lot of Marvel's
Apocalypse,
villain
though.
problem comes
I will
in.
say
Yeah,
that.
and then the rest of them are over at Spider-Man. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I can't think of anybody. I thought for a second maybe Firelord, but he's probably tied up with Fox too, with the Fantastic Four rights.
I don't know. Red Hulk. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question. Unless they, like I said, try to make Maximus the Mad into a Loki type of character, which after the Inhumans, I don't think anyone's gonna be interested in seeing him do anything. So that's a good question.
Bob. It's gonna be a never seen before character named Bob.
Bob Hydra Bob.
Hydra Bob. No shit.
Well, guys, I think that ends our stream for tonight. So
I think so. I think we're. So don't forget to check us out on Patreon, of course. And if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Rob, do you got anything coming up here you need to plug or anything like that? Or
Not really. If you're out there, drink more cranberry juice. It's good for you. That's all I have to say.
that's always good. Get some.
all right, Beyond.
Yep, glad to be here again, guys. It's really great. Another live Midnight's Edge After Dark. I know it was a little slow today just because of the news cycle. There wasn't that much there, So, but hopefully Thursday we can get
we apologize, guys, but. All right, yeah, and if you got questions, send them into Midnight's Edge After Dark, all one word, lowercase, at gmail.com, Midnight's Edge After Dark at gmail.com, and we'll try and get them on the next show. So we'll talk to you guys next time. See you Thursday.
Thanks for joining us in the chat. And like I said, please, if you're out there and you like the show, please think about considering joining our Patreon. You get all kinds of benefits. We have many different tiers. You get exclusive content. You can hear the full uncut audio for the Alien mini documentary that is coming up. And if you want to hear the life drain out of me while doing that, you can. It's actually pretty funny. So,
we'll catch you guys.
And there's all kinds of other great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like I said, support us on Patreon, please. We need your money,
please,
so we can keep the lights on. I can get the new car I want. No, seriously, for real. No, we need so we can keep giving you guys great content.
Yeah, I wish.
And keep moving
those late night. Yeah, those late night trips to the strip club, those aren't cheap, guys.
Okay. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Midnight's Edge podcast, and we will catch you guys later.
Thank you. Check you out next time.